Chapter 91. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shaking his head, the stone man ignored the reporters and strode away. Chinese restaurant. When Su Zhan came in, he found that the place was very busy. He found a seat and sat down. The waiter had already come over. Without waiting for the waiter to ask, Su Zhan directly ordered a few famous Chinese food, and said that he wanted to take it away. He also specifically asked to follow the authentic Chinese food method. After all, when Chinese food goes abroad, some improvements will be made to make it more in line with local tastes, but it's not pure enough. Chapter 0111 Li Xiaolu's choice. After ordering, Su Zhan sat there and waited leisurely. Although he had just started fighting with Stone Man Ben, he didn't take it seriously at all. He didn't take it seriously, and it wasn't even a warm-up activity. Ben's ability is relatively simple. He is covered in rocks, has strong resistance to blows, and is also very powerful. It is really easy for him to deal with such pure melee strength opponents. With nothing to do, Su Zhan thought a lot. One is its own strength. There are still relatively few conventional means and lack of stronger capabilities. He wasn't too worried about this. He could open a new copy later to gain abilities. The second is the Battle Alliance, or the ability of the people around you. Although it was just an accident that the blacksmith was controlled by the twin swords of fear, there is no guarantee that a similar situation will not occur. The Alliance can stay away from these things for the time being, but people like Sky and Natasha often perform missions and face various dangers. There are more situations, and the ability is still a little weaker. Sky has awakened her inhuman abilities and may become very powerful after becoming Shockwave Girl. After all, in the comics, she has a strong record of defeating Magneto and killing Wolverine. But Natasha is relatively weak and has no special abilities. I don't know when Simmons will be able to develop the R potion. Once successful, it will be able to improve the strength of people around him. Su Zhan muttered in his heart, and thought of Fei Li from Natasha. See, she is a completely ordinary person. The DC world is also very dangerous. It may not be a big deal since she just appeared, but I am afraid she will attract attention in the future. I have to find a way to get something for her. Steel suit. Su Zhan suddenly thought of this. Phyllis's flying skills are pretty good, so controlling the steel suit is not a big problem, and with the steel suit, her safety can be greatly improved. At least until a better potion is developed, the steel suit will definitely is the first choice. Although Tony takes the iron suit very seriously, it is not difficult to get it. Looking back, I can research this myself. Your meal is ready. Just as he was thinking, the waiter came over and interrupted his thoughts. After paying and carrying his things, Su Zhan left the restaurant, walked to the deserted alley next to him, and flew away. After returning home, Sky and others were naturally very happy to see Su Zhan bring back lunch. Su Zhan took the time to ask Simmons about the progress of his potion research. It was pretty good. Simmons had now figured out the ingredients and formula of the potion. Although it had not been tested yet, he was at least 70% sure that fine-tuning could be done to ensure that a certain kind of potion could be obtained. Ability. This made Su Zhan very happy and asked her to give him a copy of the successful research, so that he could conduct experiments. You can go to the laboratory on the superpower plane, where there are many people who want to dream of becoming superpowers. Anyway, the results of Simmons' research focus on fixing a certain ability, so there should be no danger, so this is the best way to do it. Good opportunity for experimentation. After dinner, Su Zhan stayed with Sky until the evening. After everyone had rested, Su Zhan entered the superpower dungeon. The scenery changed, and Su Zhan left the spaceship and appeared in his room in the base of the supernatural plane. Outside the window, there are stars. I looked at the time and saw it was midnight. Su Zhan came out of the room to find Kira. When he arrived at Kira's room, the door was unlocked, so Su Zhan opened the door and went in directly. Although Su Zhan's movements were very light, Kira still woke up. Kira was startled when she opened her eyes and found someone next to her, but soon she recognized it was Su Zhan, breathed a sigh of relief, and sat up with some joy. Master, are you back? Su Zhan nodded, sat down next to her and took out Simmons' research. Look at this, it's about the formula of a potion. According to this formula, it should be possible to adjust the price to produce potions with specific powers. However, the success rate is still uncertain. You can ask them to study it carefully later. If they are sure that there is no danger, they will conduct the experiment. I hope to hear the good news soon. Yes, I'll make arrangements right away. Kira stood up hurriedly and said. There's no rush, you can do it in the morning. Su-Jean said with a smile. Yes. Kira nodded obediently, hesitated and said, Master, the person you are looking for has been found. She is in the base. Do you want to meet her, Prophet, Li Xiaolu? The woman who had a less than wonderful first experience because she lost control, Su-Jean felt a little guilty about her, not to mention that even if he didn't feel anything, after all, they had already had a relationship, and Su-Jean couldn't accept that one day in the future, another man would appear next to her. Tell me where it is and I'll go by myself. You can continue to sleep. Kira told Su-Jean the place, and Su-Jean turned around and went out. Li Xiaolu's treatment was pretty good. Although her freedom was restricted, everything in the room was complete. When Su-Jean opened the door and came in, Li Xiaolu was not sleeping. She was sitting there neatly dressed, holding candy in her hand. As if waiting for someone, when she saw Su-Jean come in, she didn't show any surprise. You knew I was coming, their eyes met, and after a moment of silence, Su-Jean asked. Li Xiaolu didn't say anything. She took out a small notebook and faced Su-Jean. There was a painting on it. It was this room. She was neatly dressed and seemed to be talking to someone. However, this person was pitch black and just a thick shadow. It's impossible to tell who it is. I only know that I will meet someone tonight. I don't know who it is, but in this case, I think, even if I don't have to predict the future, I can guess that it's you, right? Li Xiaolu said. Su-Jean shrugged. Then you should have guessed why I'm looking for you, right? Probably. Li Xiaolu was non-committal. What's your answer? Do I have any choice? Li Xiaolu asked, and then said bitterly, from the moment you forcefully took possession of me, I had no choice. It's not that you don't have a choice, it's that you don't want to choose. Su-Jean shook his head and said in a deep voice, I had already passed out at that time, and you woke up earlier than me. If you really hated me so much, you could have killed me. But you didn't do that, and ran away instead. But, you are right, now, you really have no choice. No matter what the reasons are that lead you to become my woman, you are destined to be my woman in the future, you can only be my woman. If you don't want to, I won't touch you. What if I want to? Li Xiaolu was silent for a moment, then suddenly raised his head and asked, Chapter 0112 Potion Research Successful. What if I want to? Li Xiaolu's words stunned Su-Jean. To be honest, he really hadn't thought about this. After all, he and Li Xiaolu had a hostile relationship at the beginning. He even killed her brother and later forcibly took possession of her, so Su-Jean really never thought that she would ask this. Why? Su-Jean asked inexplicably. Why can I accept it so calmly? Maybe, it's because you are my first man, and maybe the only man. Li Xiaolu said. That's what women are, isn't it? This result surprised me a little, but it also surprised me. What else could Su-Jean say? Since Li Xiaolu has thought of it herself, that is naturally the best. Chapter 92. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'll talk to Kira later and let her make arrangements for you. Su-Jean paused and said, It's getting late. You should go to bed early. If you have anything to say, we'll talk tomorrow. Li Xiaolu nodded, and Su-Jean turned around and left the room. Back in his room, Su-Jean lay down but didn't feel sleepy at all. Obviously, Li Xiaolu doesn't love herself yet, or has no feelings. This is normal. After all, the time she had been in contact with him was very short. If it hadn't been for the relationship, I'm afraid Li Xiaolu wouldn't have made such a choice at all, but it doesn't matter, this is much better than she imagined, at least. She accepted this fact and didn't resist herself, right? As for the rest, just leave it to time. When he woke up early the next morning, Su Zhan told Kira that Kira had restored Li Xiaolu's freedom, and then handed the formula to the scientists at the base for research and testing. Su Zhan accompanied Li Xiaolu around the base. Although he didn't talk much, the atmosphere was still good. Especially Su Zhan's initiative made Li Xiaolu not so embarrassed and at a loss, and they became familiar with each other naturally. Su Zhan asked her about her childhood and chatted about some interesting things, and Li Xiaolu gradually opened her heart. Perhaps this is the advantage of getting on the boat first and paying for the ticket later. Having done the most intimate things, my mentality is naturally different. It's successful, Master, it's successful. Kira ran over excitedly and shouted excitedly towards Su Zhan. Did the recipe work? Yes, after testing and testing, it is now possible to prepare potions based on the type of superpower. The success rate is 100%. I have tried 10 people to select superpowers individually before, and all of them were successful. Very good, you immediately ask them to prepare 5 bottles of special potions and give them to me. Su Zhan became excited. Although the effect of this superpower potion is not too strong, many auxiliary abilities are still quite useful. Simmons is really amazing. She has only been exposed to this potion for a long time, and she has made such a major breakthrough. It seems that she can give R to her. If R's research is successful, he will be able to mass-produce superpowers. In less than a day, the potion was ready. Su Zhan didn't plan to stay here for long. Now that the potion was ready, he was ready to go back. After saying goodbye to Kira and Li Xiaolu, Su Zhan came out of the dungeon directly. It's not that he doesn't want to stay here longer, it's just that he still has a lot to do. There will be plenty of time to enjoy the Wenra township and other things in the future. When I came back, it was also night. Su Zhan came out of the room and went directly to Simmons' room. He stood at the door and knocked gently. After a moment, the door opened and Simmons appeared in front of Su Zhan in pajamas. You're back. Where have you been these past few days? Why did you suddenly disappear? Simmons asked in surprise. It does not matter. Su Zhan said something, went directly into Simmons' room, and then closed the door behind him. Just as Simmons was about to speak, Su Zhan turned around and hugged her heavily. This sudden hug made Simmons a little confused. What's wrong with you? Simmons asked doubtfully. Nothing, just a little excited. Simmons, you are great. Su Zhan let go of Simmons and pulled her to the bedside with some excitement. Then he waved his hand and various potions appeared. This is a supernatural potion. Why are there so many? Simmons recognized it. Your research has been successful. It has been confirmed that the success rate is 100%, and there is no danger. Now, choose one. Let me choose. Simmons asked in surprise. Yes, you did such a great job, of course I have to reward you. You know all the types of superpowers, right? Choose one. Su Zhan said with a smile. Then, I'd better choose telekinesis control. Simmons thought for a while and said. Su Zhan quickly found the potion and handed it to Simmons, then put away the others. Why did you choose this? I thought you would choose the ability to predict. Su Zhan asked curiously. Because this is helpful for my experiment. After all, even if there is a machine, it is not that convenient in many cases, but if you can have mind control, it will be much easier. Although the predictive ability is also very good, I am not a field worker after all. And it's not very helpful for my own major. Simmons explained. Can I use this superpower potion later? I'm still a little excited now. I didn't expect it to be successful. Simmons asked Su Zhan. Of course. Su Zhan said with a smile, actually, I am also very excited, so, do you want each other to calm down the excitement? How to calm down? Simmons was a little curious, but soon, Su Zhan answered her with practical actions. Su Zhan held Simmons' waist with one hand and put his other hand on her neck, gently pulled her over, and then kissed her directly. Simmons snorted and instinctively wanted to push Su-Jean away, but soon, her movements became weaker and weaker, and finally she took the initiative to hug Su-Jean. After a long time, the two separated. Simmons looked at Su-Jean. I seem to be even more excited now. Me too. Su-Jean said with burning eyes. Simmons could still look at him at first, but he soon lost the battle. He lowered his head and said, I think I need to do something to calm down. Didn't you say before that you still have an evolved ability? Potion. You can leave it to me, maybe. I can figure out how to make this potion more stable. I would have given it to you even if you didn't tell me. Su-Jean smiled and took out the R and handed it to Simmons. This is the only bottle, I hope you won't disappoint me. I will try my best. Simmons nodded. Chapter 0113 Super Black Widow. Although Simmons said he wanted to find something to calm his mood, after all, it was impossible to study potions in the middle of the night. He could only change the topic and calm down the atmosphere. After all, if the atmosphere didn't cool down just now, something might have happened. Simmons was obviously not ready yet, especially when Sky was in the room not far from him. Although Su-Jean was a little reluctant to give up, he did not continue. After saying good night and returning to his room, Su-Jean was still savoring the taste in his mouth. By giving Simmons the power of telekinesis control, her safety is also guaranteed. After all, telepathy control abilities are still very strong. Su-Jean himself is also aware of this. What's more, although Simmons is also an agent, he is in the back office. Scientific researchers will basically not encounter danger. As for Sky, Su-Jean didn't give her any superpower potion. Although she has not yet awakened, her abilities after awakening are very strong. Before she awakens, she will not encounter any danger. If you give her a superpower potion rashly, you don't know if it will cause any other reactions. When it came to Natasha, Su-Jean felt that she needed her more. Mornings in New York seem particularly busy. People can be seen walking quickly with coffee in their hands everywhere. This is a city with a very fast pace of life. Not only do we have to face the hardships of work and life, but we also face crises from time to time. It can be said that everyone has a big heart. In a newly opened cafe on the street, Su-Jean was sitting next to the window. There were 2 cups of coffee on the table. It was obvious that he was waiting for someone. Ding-dong! The bell hanging on the door rang, and the door was pushed open and a beautiful woman walked in. The woman looked around, found Su-Jean, and walked over with a smile. Have you been waiting for a long time? Natasha sat down and asked Su-Jean. Chapter 93. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Just arrived. Su-Jean said with a smile. Natasha took a sip of coffee and smiled with satisfaction. The coffee is cold and you say it just arrived? Is it cold? Let me see. Su-Jean pretended to be surprised and took Natasha's coffee cup, then handed it over. No, you can see it's still steaming. Your method is too clumsy, isn't it? I saw your hand turned into magma just now. Natasha rolled her eyes and exposed it. Does that work? Su-Jean asked disapprovingly. Well, I think I will be in a good mood today. Natasha said with a smile. That's useful. Su-Jean smiled and said, do you want to have superpowers? For example, mind control, sound waves, mind control, precognition, etc. Why do you ask this suddenly? Natasha was a little confused, but she still replied, of course I have. If I have powers, at least I can be easier and safer when performing tasks. Wait, don't tell me, can you give me superpowers? Su-Jean nodded with a smile. Natasha was a little excited and said, really? Is it because of your ability? Didn't you say that you can only swallow and absorb it and cannot return it? I didn't say it was my ability. Su-Jean shook his head and explained, I have several supernatural potions in my hand now. They are 100% successful and have no side effects. However, there are not many types and the power is different. Precognition ability, mind control, mental control, sound waves, you choose one of these 4. Potion, Natasha muttered something softly and thought about it seriously. Control it with your mind. Natasha considered her situation and made her choice. Su Zhan has demonstrated telekinesis control and precognition abilities, and Natasha also knows the power, which is more helpful to her. However, of the two, telekinesis control is better. Su Zhan reached out and placed the potion in her palm. Just drink it directly. Now. Natasha hesitated, opened it and put it to her mouth. There is no smell. When you tilt your neck and open your mouth and drink it, there is no taste, just like drinking water. Is this enough? After finishing the drink, Natasha asked Su Zhan. Now, you can go get a room. Su Zhan said with a smile. Ah, Natasha was stunned for a moment. Why did she suddenly talk about getting a room? Could it be that this is not a supernatural potion, but what kind of thing is it? Of course, this thought was quickly dismissed as soon as it crossed his mind. After all, Su Zhan didn't need this kind of method to do what he wanted to do, he just said it. It may take you about 3 to 4 hours, and you will have superpowers after you wake up. Su Zhan explained with a smile, left the coffee money, and went out with Natasha in his arms. After booking a room in a nearby hotel, Natasha was a little drowsy when she came in. The feeling of drowsiness could not be stopped by willpower at all. After entering the room, Natasha fell asleep directly. After putting Natasha in place, Su Zhan sat next to him and released ether particles to absorb them while waiting for her to wake up. After almost 3 hours, Su Zhan felt that Natasha seemed to be awake, so he put away the ether particles and looked over. Natasha slowly opened her eyes and smiled at Su Zhan. Congratulations on your evolution. Su Zhan said with a smile. Evolution? What have I evolved into? Super Black Widow. Su Zhan said jokingly, try it and see how good it is. Natasha nodded, staring intensely at the water glass next to her. The water glass didn't move at first, but then slowly started to shake, and then flew to Natasha with a whooshing sound. Natasha hurriedly caught the glass and said excitedly, I succeeded. Isn't this what it should be? Su Zhan shrugged with a smile and said in explanation, you have just gained the ability, and you still need time to adapt and improve. In addition to controlling objects, you can also generate energy shields. For details, you can refer to although Invisible Woman Susan's ability cannot make her invisible and the range of her telekinesis magnetic field is not that large, it is still very practical. Natasha understands this truth. In fact, there is no strong or weak ability. The main thing is whether it can adapt to it and whether it can be better developed. After all, she has dealt with a lot of people with abilities, and she doesn't necessarily have the ability to win. But before that, I still have something to do. Su Zhan looked at her and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. With just one look, Natasha instantly understood what he meant. Well, you can't waste your rent money, right? As Natasha said this, she raised her foot and hooked it around Su Zhan's neck. Such a sharp gesture made Su Zhan instantly excited and he pounced on him. Chapter 0114 Superhero. The sound of heavy breathing and roaring from the bottom of his lungs gradually calmed down. Natasha leaned against Su Zhan. Although both of them were sweating profusely and panting, they couldn't help but smile at each other. Baby, are you satisfied? Natasha asked with a smile, leaning her body sideways and supporting her head with her hands. What if I say no? Su Zhan asked deliberately. Natasha glanced at him resentfully and said, then I can only work harder. After saying that, Natasha stretched out her hand and moved the quilt on Su Zhan's body. Su Zhan looked down and saw that the quilt on his body was being removed bit by bit and quickly fell to the ground. Immediately afterwards, he suddenly felt that Natasha had changed her target, and he trembled suddenly. Please, telekinesis control is not what you are allowed to do, let alone. I don't feel anything. Su Zhan complained to Natasha depressedly. He didn't expect that she was so bad and used telekinesis to help him do that kind of thing. Natasha smiled and pursed her pink lips. So what do you want me to use for this? You know. Su Zhan stared at her mouth and said hee. Natasha didn't speak, just slowly leaned over. In the evening, Natasha left the hotel and prepared to go back to practice her abilities. The most important thing was how to use them in actual combat. Su Zhan stayed in the hotel and notified the front desk to open the room for an extra week. He is ready to go to a new copy, although Sky would definitely be disappointed in this case. After all, he said he would stay there for a month, but he seemed to disappear often. However, he was really prepared to enter this dungeon early because there was a very powerful ability in it that could defeat Su Zhan. Very helpful. With this ability, it will be easier for him to do many things, for example, steel suit, for example, the raw material of the GH325 potion that revived Coulson. Chapter 94. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Especially the latter, it is a good thing for resurrecting people from the dead, especially for Sky, and for the Inhumans, it has no side effects. Its effect is even comparable to the resurrection spring water of the Ninja Master in Green Arrow. Both have advantages and disadvantages, but they are almost the same. System, help me erase the Green Lantern's dimension and open a new dimension, superhero. Su Zhan had just finished his thoughts, but the system had already completed the selection of the new plane. Su Zhan doesn't know much about this plane, but he knows that there are many superpowers in it, including the ability to copy, the ability to heal quickly, the ability to fly, the ability to control time and space, and the ability to read minds. Read other people's thoughts. For Su Zhan, this plane is a paradise. Su Zhan's goal is the Japanese man Nakamura Hiroshi, who has the ability to control time and space. Aha! The scenery in front of him suddenly changed. Su Zhan had long been accustomed to this. He looked around and was about to identify his position when he suddenly heard an exclamation coming from him. Following the sound, I quickly saw a girl jumping down from an abandoned steel frame. This steel frame is at least 20 meters high from the ground. If it falls, you will definitely die. Just as Su Zhan was about to save people, he suddenly discovered that the girl was wearing a cheerleading uniform, and there was a boy filming with a video camera not far below. Seeing this, Su Zhan had no idea of saving anyone. It's very simple. This girl has the superpower of rapid self-healing, or in other words, she can be called an immortal girl. This is a superpower that can even survive after being dissected. It is on par with Wolverine's healing power, and much stronger than his Extremis virus's healing power. System, where's the mission? Now that he has entered the plane and met one of the protagonists, that is to say, the plot has begun to unfold, but the mission has not yet appeared. This made Su Zhan a little puzzled and asked casually. Ding, mission released. Main mission, devour at least 3 abilities. The system quickly gave out the mission, but after waiting for a long time, Su Zhan discovered that there was only one main mission. What's going on? No side missions. Side missions will be released immediately depending on the plot development. Is this still possible? Su Zhan was a little speechless. He found that the system was sometimes unreliable, especially in terms of tasks. There is no exact value for rewards for completing tasks, and special circumstances may arise from time to time. The more you upgrade, the less reliable it becomes. Forget it, there is still a main mission. Su Zhan shook his head and thought about his next move. I should be in Texas now, near a small town in Odyssey. After all, the immortal girl is the cheerleader of a high school here. His first target is still the Japanese superpower hero Nakamura, but now that he has met the immortal girl, he cannot let go of her abilities, not only to complete the task, but also for his own benefit. After all, with this ability, his life is equivalent to being protected. Su Zhan looked at the undead girl. At this time, she was about to leave with the boy who was recording the video. Su Zhan slowly followed behind, and soon saw the undead girl and the boy parting ways. The boy still looked disappointed. The immortal girl is the captain of the cheerleading team, and her appearance is not bad. Although she is still in high school, her figure is extremely developed and she still has a slightly youthful feeling. He is a very popular figure in the school, but that boy is the kind of boy who is usually ignored by no one. When they were separated, Su Zhan clearly heard the immortal woman say to him, I will talk to you in school tomorrow. Talk, I promise. Just such a sentence made the boy so happy that Su-Jean couldn't help but shake his head. It's really simple and easy to satisfy. Su-Jean didn't catch up with the immortal girl until she was far away. Hearing the footsteps, the immortal girl Claire thought it was the boy chasing after her. She stopped and turned around and was about to speak, but she suddenly found that the person chasing after her was a stranger, an Asian with black hair and yellow skin. She was stunned for a moment, not knowing what to say. This was the first time she met a foreigner. Seeing him walking over with a smile on his face, Claire subconsciously said hello. Hi. Hello. Su-Jean said with a smile. When she heard it was in English, Claire breathed a sigh of relief and said, Are you here for tourism? There are very few tourists here. That's right, my name is Su-Jean, what's yours? Claire Bennett. Claire, there's blood on your clothes, do you need help? Su-Jean pointed to her clothes. She was injured when she jumped down, but the injury had already healed, but the blood stains remained. It's okay, thank you, I don't need help. Claire said in a panic. Is it really not necessary? I think you should have a secret that you want to tell someone, such as, some special abilities. Looking at the panicked Claire, Su-Jean smiled pointedly. Chapter 0115 Experience the Feel. I don't understand what you are saying. I'm sorry, I'm going home. Goodbye. Su-Jean's words made Claire panic. She thought her ability had been discovered. She said this and prepared to leave in a panic. Do you really not understand? What a pity, I still want you to see what I am capable of. Su-Jean did not stop him, but said in a disappointed tone. Claire stopped and asked hesitantly, your ability? Su-Jean raised his hand, and a ball of fire instantly appeared in the palm of his hand. Claire's eyes widened in surprise, a little surprised by the scene in front of her. Putting away the flames, Su-Jean smiled and said, This is my ability. How cool. Claire said subconsciously, You can release fire, it's so powerful, unlike me. I feel like a monster. Maybe I can help you, Su-Jean said with a smile. Real? If you don't want to have this ability and want to be an ordinary person, I can take it away from you. Su-Jean didn't intend to use force when dealing with a beautiful and young girl like Claire. Anyway, she was still in the stage of being afraid of her own abilities, and he could fully let her cooperate and hand over her abilities. Can you take away this ability? Claire was a little surprised but also a little moved. She has been troubled by this matter all the time. She found that no matter how injured she was, she could not die and could recover quickly. She was afraid that she is a monster, and she is even more afraid of others finding out that she is a monster. Try it, Su-Jean smiled and shrugged, and slowly placed his hand on her waist. Claire subconsciously wanted to avoid it, but when she saw Su-Jean's serious expression, she thought that this was the only way to take away the ability, so she didn't avoid it. As everyone knows, Su-Jean actually just wants to experience the feel. There is a saying that goes well, don't take advantage of the bastard. Su-Jean would not do dirty things, but he did not flaunt himself as a gentleman or a moral model. After feeling it solemnly for a while, Su-Jean activated his devouring ability. Chapter 95. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. As soon as his devouring ability was activated, he couldn't help but let out a surprised whisper. In the past, when he was devouring his abilities, if the opponent's ability was not strong, he could easily devour them. If the opponent's ability is strong, it will be resisted and it will be more difficult to devour it. But by swallowing ether particles during this period, he could feel that his swallowing ability had been greatly enhanced, and now Claire obviously had no resistance. However, the resistance encountered was very strong. As soon as the swallowing ability was activated, the opponent started to resist fiercely. At this speed, even if he held it down for a day, he might not be able to swallow it. It's strange. Is it because the ability levels in this world are generally relatively high? Or is it because of her special ability that she resists so strongly? Su-Jean couldn't help but frown. Claire asked hesitantly, What's wrong? Is there something wrong? I've run into some trouble. You may have a special ability and a very strong self-awareness. You seem to know what I want to do, so you are resisting very strongly. If you don't mind, it's best to try again somewhere where no one will disturb you. Try. Su Zhan smiled humorously and let go of her. After all, if someone sees it, it will cause misunderstanding. Claire's face turned red instantly. It was okay if Su Zhan didn't say it. It was only after this that she realized that he had touched that place. Well, you take me to the town first, I'll find a place to settle down, and then give it a try. Then come with me. Claire nodded and led the way. The two chatted while walking, mainly Claire talking, Su Zhan listening, and occasionally saying a word or two. Maybe he finally met someone of the same kind. There were many words that could not be said to others that had been kept in her heart for too long, so Claire suddenly opened her heart. Immortal girl, Claire Bennett, friendliness increased by 50%. Su Zhan was stunned when he heard the sudden prompt from the system. What's wrong? Claire asked. It's nothing. Su Zhan shook his head, but he was surprised. Didn't expect to get 50% friendship like this. Is it because she trusts others easily, or is it because of similarity? It looks like Newly can even raise her friendliness to 80%, which will open up the fighting arena. If I devour her abilities, she should be very powerful for people who want to become normal. Think yourself, right? The friendliness level might be increased to 80%, but... System, if I devour Claire's abilities and my friendship reaches 80% and open the fighting arena, will she still have abilities in the fighting arena? This question is critical, and not just for Claire. After the fighting arena is opened, the character's attributes and abilities are selected to be in the state when it is opened. In other words, if Claire has no abilities when her friendliness reaches 80%, then she will also have no abilities in the fighting arena? In that case, what's the point? Su Zhan was a little depressed. If the characters who appeared in the fighting arena had no abilities, then there would be no need to exist at all. That's it for Claire. After all, she's just immortal, and fighting her won't add any fighting experience or skills, but what if it's someone else? For example, the Flash, he wanted both the Flash's abilities and the experience of dealing with speedsters. The only way is to wait until the friendship level is raised enough to open the fighting arena before devouring it. Damn it, do you have to have a good relationship with him before you can devour the power? What the hell is this? This is too deceptive. System, don't you think the setting of the fighting arena is a bit confusing and useless? Su Zhan asked depressedly. The system was silent and did not answer. Seeing that the system didn't answer, Su Zhan had nothing to do. If you're cheating, then just cheat. If it's tasteless, then let's just say it's worthless. At the worst, this fighting arena is just for the sake of it. Don't pursue it deliberately. Anyway, the devouring ability is more important than the experience gained in the fighting arena. There seems to be an accident ahead. God, there seems to be a car accident. Claire suddenly shouted, and then Su Zhan looked up and saw several fire trucks not far away with a warning cordon surrounding them. Several trucks inside collided with each other and ignited a raging fire. The situation was very dangerous. Claire hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice to Su Zhan, I'll go over and take a look. You want to help? Su Zhan asked with a smile. Claire nodded. I can't die anyway. Then there's no need to suffer, right? Being burned by fire will hurt, so let me do it. Chapter 0116 I am not God. When Su Zhan said this, Claire remembered that Su Zhan was as capable as herself. His ability was fire. He shouldn't be afraid of fire, right? Watch carefully. Su Zhan lowered his head and said something to Claire with a chuckle, his left hand clasped together and slightly swinging in the direction of the car accident. Claire looked at it curiously, and soon, her eyes widened in surprise, and she pulled Su Zhan's arm in disbelief, excited. What did she see? She unexpectedly discovered that the raging fire that had been ignited in the car accident started to move little by little. It was not very fast at first, but after a while, the flames were completely gathered together. This strange situation was quickly noticed. Whether it was the firefighters or the people around, everyone exclaimed in surprise, and some even took pictures of this spectacle with their mobile phones. The scene of the car accident was obviously very large, and there were obviously raging fires all around just now, but now these fires seemed to be conscious, gathering together close together, swaying in the wind in an open space in the middle. God, what's going on? Still, it's better to stay away, it looks a bit weird. This is God's blessing and God's glory. Some of the firefighters were scared and some were excited. At this time, the flames suddenly became stronger, and the firefighters immediately took a few steps back in fright. Then they saw the flames spinning at high speed, spinning faster and faster, just like a tornado of flames. When it reached after a peak, it suddenly disappeared, just disappeared into thin air. After a long time, everyone woke up from a dream. They were in complicated moods and didn't know how to face this matter, but no matter what, it was a good thing. Oh my God, you are so awesome. After Claire and Sue Jean left quietly, Claire said excitedly, "You are simply a hero, did you hear that?" They all said it was the glory of God. I'm not God. Sue Jean smiled and shrugged. Immortal girl, Claire Bennett, friendliness increased by 10%. The prompt came again, and this time Sue Jean was calm, 60%, it seems. Claire can become the first person in the fighting arena. The two came to a small town, and Claire took Sue Jean to a hotel in the town. I'll go in and get a room first. You go and wait for me behind the hotel. Sue Jean said to Claire. Why? Claire didn't respond. Sue Jean said with a smile, you are stupid. Everyone in the town knows you. If they see you entering the hotel with me, aren't you afraid that others will misunderstand you? You go to the back and wait for me. I will open the room and then look through the window. Come in quietly. Chapter 96. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Claire smiled and nodded. Immortal girl, Claire Bennett, friendliness increased by 5%. All right. Can this increase friendliness? Sue Jean shook his head helplessly, turned around and entered the hotel. The hotel only had 3 floors, so Sue Jean directly chose the room on the 3rd floor. After he came in and took a look, he felt it was pretty good. Although it was a little small, it was quite clean. He walked to the window, opened it, and looked down. Claire was below, but the back was clean and there was nothing for her to climb on. Claire was worrying about how to get up, but suddenly she saw Sue Jean climb out of the window and jump down directly. Sue Jean bent down, reached out and hugged Claire's waist, then jumped lightly and jumped directly to the window on the 3rd floor, letting Claire go in first, and he followed closely. After coming in, Claire looked at it curiously, and then looked at Sue Jean nervously. I don't know why, she wasn't nervous before, but after she came in, maybe she was affected by the environment, and she felt a little nervous inexplicably. This was her first time in a hotel, and it was also her first time living in the same room with a man and being alone. Sue Jean is a lonely man and a girl, and Sue Jean is very charming. Although Claire is still a little girl, she can't help but feel nervous. Continue. Sue Jean asked in a low voice. Claire nodded. Okay, I really want to return to normal, Mom, Dad, and brother. Sometimes I really don't know how to face them. I'm afraid they will treat me as a monster if they find out. Believe me, they won't. Sue Jean smiled and pulled Claire to sit down. Claire took a deep breath and nodded heavily. Don't be so nervous, just relax. Sue Jean reached out and put it on, and swallowed it again. As a result, there was still resistance, and it seemed stronger than last time. Ding, the side mission is released. Side mission, obtain the abilities of the immortal female Claire. Just as Sue Jean was trying hard to devour it, the system suddenly issued a mission. After hearing the content of the mission, Sue Jean was very happy. I didn't expect that the side mission would be this. It seems to overlap with the main mission, but that's fine. It kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Putting aside other thoughts, Sue Jean began to concentrate on activating his devouring ability. He could feel that it was resisting very fiercely, and the 2 energies began to pull each other. Beads of sweat gradually appeared on Su Zhan's forehead. He could feel that he was gradually gaining the upper hand, and it began to be gradually pulled out. "Come out." Su Zhan gritted his teeth and roared, subconsciously tightening his grip. Claire instantly snorted and frowned slightly. Being scratched by Su Zhan hurt a lot. Not only did it hurt, but there was also a strange feeling. She bit her mouth and endured the increasing strength of Su Zhan's hand. She seemed to feel something leaving her body. She slowed down her breathing and did not dare to disturb Su Zhan. She felt faintly nervous and wanted to. "Did you make it?" "It's done." Feeling that its resistance was getting weaker and weaker and that it was about to be devoured by him, Su Zhan increased his strength. "It hurts, it hurts." As he increased his strength, Claire couldn't help it anymore, shaking and shouting in a low voice. "Don't move. Just hold on for a while and it will come out soon." Su Zhan shouted in a low voice. It's out, it's out." Su Zhan suddenly roared, and his devouring ability returned to his body instantly. When he returned, he could feel it coming with him. He had obtained Claire's ability. Boom! Just when Su Zhan subconsciously relaxed, the door was suddenly pushed open with force, followed by a middle-aged man wearing glasses who rushed over angrily. He rushed in menacingly and saw the scene in front of him. But suddenly stopped. Chapter 0117 The Purpose of the Fighting Field. "Dad, why are you here?" Claire looked at the man rushing in surprise and asked subconsciously. "Burnett, Claire's adoptive father." "Honey, are you okay?" Burnett looked at Claire, especially since her clothes were intact, hesitated and asked. "I'm fine, Dad." Claire shook her head and was about to speak when she heard Burnett say softly, "It's fine, my dear, can you go down and wait for me?" "I want to talk to him." Claire hesitated, but Su Zhan winked at her and said with a smile, "Go, I also want to talk to your father." Claire nodded, then turned around and went out. Burnett closed the door, and the kind expression on his face disappeared in an instant. He suddenly reached out and grabbed Su Zhan's clothes, and shouted sternly, "Who are you, and what have you done to my daughter?" "What do you think I did?" Su Zhan has pretty good feelings about Burnett because he is a father, a real father. Although his life is full of deception and lies, it is undeniable that he is really good to Claire and is really trying to protect her. Therefore, Su Zhan was not angry at Burnett's actions. He lightly grabbed his hand and asked him to let go of her. Then he slowly arranged his clothes and said, "If you are worried about what happened to my cheating on your daughter, friendship relationship, then you can rest assured. Although the words you just heard, like it hurts, don't move and it will come out quickly, etc. seem a bit misleading. At first glance, it sounds like that, but you also saw it, it's very obviously not. Who are you?" Burnett indeed misunderstood. Anyone who heard such a conversation at the door would have misunderstood. "It hurts, it hurts. Don't move. Just hold on for a while and you'll come out." It's out." Such a conversation, coupled with the low growl that seemed to explode, it would be strange not to be misunderstood. "My name is Su Zhan." "Nice to meet you, Mr. Burnett." Su Zhan said with a smile. "What did you do to my daughter?" Burnett frowned. Although it wasn't that kind of thing, it was obvious that this strange man named Su Zhan must have done something to Claire. "Don't be nervous, actually, your purpose is the same as mine, and you should thank me." Su Zhan smiled, and seeing that Burnett's expression did not relax, he explained, "I know you are nominally here working in a paper mill is actually working for a special department, right? A department that specializes in searching for people with superpowers. At first, maybe you just adopted Claire for organizational arrangements, but people all have feelings, so. I have been protecting her for many years, protecting her ability from being discovered, and protecting her from leaving your side, am I right?" "I do not know what you're talking about." Burnett shook his head, feeling a little ridiculous, turned around, and quietly took out the gun from his arms. Turning around suddenly, pointing his gun at Su Zhan, Burnett asked coldly, "How do you know this?" Are you also a person with abilities? Looking at the dark muzzle of the gun, Su Zhan shook his head, and with a slight hook of his finger, Burnett's gun was instantly released and flew into Su Zhan's hand. Chapter 97. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Burnett looked at Su Zhan nervously. Su Zhan looked at the gun for a few times, then pointed it at his arm. Boom! Gunfire rang out and a bullet pierced his arm. Fortunately, the sound of this gun is so small that it won't attract anyone's attention. You. Burnett didn't understand what he was doing. Why did he shoot himself? But soon, he discovered that the gunshot wound healed quickly, and in the blink of an eye he was back to his original state, as if he had not been injured. This ability looks good. Su Zhan looked at his arm. In less than a second, the injury healed. Of course, there is the healing ability of the extremis virus, but the extremis virus alone is not that fast. He could feel that Claire's ability was merging with the healing ability in the extremis virus, but the fusion speed was not fast, so he didn't feel like he was about to faint this time. Didn't you ask me what I did to Claire? This is it. Su Zhan raised his arm and said to Burnett. Burnett shook his head and asked in disbelief, You mean, you took away Claire's ability? Are you Sarah? Sarah is one of the more dangerous guys in the world of superheroes. This guy can cut open the head of a person with superpowers, and then peek into the way superpowers work to gain access to their superpowers. It is said that he has the ability to see how everything works. Su Zhan has never understood this ability. Is it a superpower or a normal ability? After all, the scope of being able to see through the operation of everything is too imaginary. Seeing Burnett's nervous look, Su Zhan shook his head helplessly and said, Please, if I were Sierra, would Claire still be alive now? I can get her abilities without hurting her, so, you don't have to worry about your back. The organization took her away, so there is no need to worry about her being in any danger. Burnett said nothing, but looked relieved. Su Zhan did solve his trouble by doing this, but, he was indeed very grateful to Su Zhan, but he would not let Su Zhan go because of this. A person with superpowers who can take away other people's abilities, and it's not like Sarah's, who kills people to get it. This is a major discovery. Burnett looked at Su Zhan, stretched out his hand to take back his gun after a moment, and then turned around and left without saying a word. Su Zhan walked to the window and happened to see Claire following Burnett into the car. She was looking over here when she saw Su Zhan and waved with a smile. Immortal girl, Claire Bennett, the friendship level is increased by 30%, the total friendship level reaches 95%, the fighting arena is opened, and the fighting arena characters are input. The sound of the system sounded. Su Zhan sat down and said casually, It's useless if it's turned on. After the character is entered into the fighting arena, the status can be updated at any time. If you can go back to the time when the character has not lost his ability, you can update the character in the fighting arena. In addition, fighting in the fighting arena can increase friendship. When the percentage of friendship is higher, the more opportunities there are to be taken away from time and space. That the system's answer made Su Zhan instantly interested. If this is the case, then I may have to re-evaluate the role of the fighting arena. Chapter 0118 Powerful Function. Let's not talk about the status update of the characters in the fighting arena. Anyway, it sounds like the fighting arena is used for discussion and increasing actual combat experience. If the status can be updated, it will just make this fighting arena from useless to useful. What really concerned Su Zhan was the following words: increasing friendship, and, the higher the percentage of friendship, the greater the chance of being taken away from time and space. System, does taking away time and space mean that I can bring people from the copy plane to the Marvel world? Yes. In other words, can I bring people from the Marvel world to the dungeon plane? If that's the case, then I take back what I said. The function of this fighting arena is too powerful. To put it simply, this can take people through planes. If I bring people from the dungeon plane to the Marvel world, wouldn't I be able to get a lot of helpers out of thin air? In other words, if you bring people from the Marvel world to the dungeon plane, and you want to complete the task in the dungeon plane, it will be easier to achieve your goal, right? Why is there no hint for friendliness in the Marvel world? In the dungeon plane, the system will give a prompt when the friendship level increases, but there is no such thing in the Marvel world. For example, Sky, Twinkle, Natasha, etc., their friendliness must be quite high, right? The system level is too low and the friendliness of the main world cannot be displayed. Su-Jean was speechless. So, you actually want to remind me to work hard to complete the task and gain energy so that you can upgrade as soon as possible, right? The system is silent and does not respond. Open the fighting arena and see what it's like. The fighting arena is opened, the scene is initialized. As the system beeped, Su-Jean found that he had appeared in the fighting arena, a relatively wide arena. It was so dark that he couldn't see anything, but the arena was very bright. Is this range of activity too small? Can it be changed? Su-Jean asked. The more characters there are in the fighting arena, the more areas can be unlocked. Okay, this is an upgrade game. Su-Jean curled his lips, and then found an illusory screen above his head. On the screen was a lonely person's head, which was the immortal girl Claire. Just one. Isn't there anyone in the main world whose friendship level reaches 80%? Su-Jean frowned. Could it be that Sky's friendship level with him didn't even reach 80%? Host, you can look at the screen carefully. What is shown here is the character in the copy plane. There is an arrow next to it. That is the real main world. However, because the system level is too low, the main world page cannot be selected for the time being. Alright, after saying this, Su-Jean felt better. It was just that he couldn't choose, not that he didn't have one. With a thought in his mind, Su-Jean chose the immortal girl Claire on the virtual screen. After a moment, a ball of light gradually appeared in front of his eyes. When the light dissipated, Claire had appeared in front of him. What is this place? Am I not in Dad's car? Why am I here suddenly? Su-Jean, are you here too? After Claire appeared, she looked around confusedly. Seeing Su-Jean was like seeing her backbone. He hurriedly came to Su-Jean's side. Su-Jean was stunned by Claire's reaction. He shook his head subconsciously and secretly asked the system, what is going on? Why does she look real? Could it be that you sent the real Claire to here? Instead of some copied data? This is the real her. When the friendship reaches more than 80%, her soul will automatically be bound to you, or to the system, so when the fighting arena is opened and you select her, she will appear here. But don't worry, time outside is still now, so don't worry about any unexpected situations. When she leaves, you can also erase her memory, and she won't remember appearing here. This time the system is quite reliable and the explanations are very clear. After figuring out the situation, Su-Jean felt relieved and said to Claire with a smile, don't worry, there is no danger here, this is my place. How did you get me here? Claire asked curiously. If the friendliness was low, she would never be out of curiosity when encountering this situation, but now, she was just curious but not worried, and trusted Su-Jean very much. That's my ability. I have many abilities. Then what did you ask me to do here? Claire asked. Do what? Chapter 98. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Su-Jean didn't know what to do. This place was originally used for fighting, but it was obviously impossible to fight Claire. After thinking about it, he randomly picked a topic and said, it's nothing. Actually, I just wanted to ask you, does it still hurt? What? Claire was stunned for a moment, lowered her head subconsciously, and reacted. No. It doesn't hurt anymore. Oh, that's good. Now that's the case, I'm relieved. I'm really afraid of hurting you, and I hope you understand that I didn't mean to hold you so hard. Su-Jean said in explanation. Claire blushed and nodded, embarrassed to continue. Forget it, I'll take you back. Su-Jean shook his head, and with a thought, Claire disappeared from his eyes, and a prompt appeared on the virtual screen. Whether you choose to delete your memory. Whether. Su-Jean chose yes, and then noticed that Claire's profile picture dimmed. It seemed that it would take a certain amount of time to summon again. Su Zhan was now familiar with the system's routine. Send me out. After understanding the situation in the fighting arena, Su Zhan came out directly. According to his initial plan, he was planning to go directly to Japan to find Nakamura Hiroshi. Su Zhan was bound to win because of his ability. But now that he thought about it, maybe he didn't need to go directly to Japan, but could go to New York instead. Nakamura Hiroshi's ability should have just awakened and will appear in New York. He can just go to New York and wait. But before going to New York, there are still a few ability users here, so that I can swallow their abilities to complete the task, and I can also test whether it is the abilities of this plane that are relatively strong and difficult to swallow, or it is just the ability of the immortal woman. Strong is not easy to swallow. Hurry up, otherwise it will be easy for Sarah to take the lead. Su Zhan muttered and left the hotel. There are many abilities in this world, either strong or weak, but there is a little girl named Jasmine who has a special ability. It can locate the position of anyone in the world. It is simply a humanoid GPS. Su Zhan plans to get her ability first, which will make it easier for him to find other ability users. Chapter 0119 Freezing and Positioning Capabilities. The people in the town were very enthusiastic. After a brief inquiry, Su Zhan had found Jasmine's home. Obviously, nothing happened to his family yet. According to the development of the plot, Jasmine's father was targeted by Sarah because he has the ability to freeze, similar to Blizzard Downey, who can create ice. Of course, Su Zhan was not very interested in this ability. Unless he could ignore the rules of physics and create ice out of thin air like Iceman in the X-Men, the potential would still be limited. His main target is Jasmine, the humanoid GPS. If this ability is combined with teleportation or spatial abilities, it will be like cheating. No one can hide from it. At this time, Jasmine's family was cooking dinner. It looked like a happy family, no different from an ordinary family. Who would have thought that it wouldn't be long before the male host's head would be cut open and the hostess would be nailed to the wall? Bang bang bang. Su Zhan stood at the door and knocked gently. Not long after, footsteps were heard, and the door was pushed open. A housewife looked at Su Zhan curiously. Who are you looking for? I'm looking for your husband. Is he here? Su Zhan asked with a smile. Please wait a moment. The housewife turned around and shouted, and not long after, an ordinary-looking man came over. You're looking for me. I don't seem to know you. Sir, can we talk alone? Su Zhan asked with a smile. Jasmine's father hesitated for a moment, then finally closed the door and followed Su Zhan to the side. My name is Su Zhan. My purpose of coming to you is very simple. To save you, or to save your whole family. Su Zhan's words made Jasmine's father stunned for a moment, and he said with some displeasure, Sir, if you deliberately wanted to play a prank, I think you succeeded. Your freezing ability has been known to a person named Sarah. I don't know if you have heard of this name. This person is a murderer who specializes in cutting open the heads of people with abilities to obtain their abilities. He can not only kill. If he kills you, he will also kill your wife. If he knows your daughter's ability, he will not let it go. Therefore, there are only two ways to save you, or, pack up your things immediately and move the whole family away. Live a life of fear from now on. Or, either what? Jasmine's father asked hurriedly. Either you lose your abilities, so that he has no interest in attacking you, and you can stay away from these things and live your lives peacefully. Su Zhan paused and said, I have a way to take away your abilities without hurting you. Of course, I am not so kind as to help you specially. So, if you don't agree, I'm afraid. I will force it. Let's do it. Jasmine's father was startled when he heard this. In an instant, Su Zhan felt that the atmosphere around him had become cold. When he lowered his head, he saw that the lawn on the ground was already frozen. Believe me, if I want to kill you, it will only be for a moment. Su Zhan looked at him and said calmly. Jasmine's father hesitated for a long time and finally gave up. Can you really not hurt us? My goal is your ability. By the way, it can be regarded as saving your family's life, that's all. After all, It's good to be able to achieve your goal and save others at the same time, isn't it? Why should I believe you? Jasmine's father asked. Because you have no choice. In the room on the second floor of Jasmine's house, Su-Jean put his hand on Jasmine's father's shoulder. Jasmine's father looked nervous and alert. After a long time, Su-Jean suddenly let go of his hand. Jasmine's father was relieved. Then he subconsciously clenched his fist and suddenly realized that his ability was gone. Looking up at Su-Jean, Su-Jean smiled slightly, and a layer of ice suddenly appeared on his body, but it quickly dissipated. God, you actually took away my ability. This is really incredible. Jasmine's father couldn't help but marveled when he saw his ability appearing on Su-Jean. You should be lucky. If it happened to Sarah, you might not even have a chance to sigh. Su-Jean said with a faint smile. Su-Jean was not so excited after gaining the ability to freeze. At first glance, this ability seemed cool and very powerful, but the only flaw was that it could not create ice out of thin air, so it was not perfect. For Su-Jean, it was just an additional ability that completed part of the mission, nothing more. Oh, one more thing, that confirmed Su-Jean's doubts. It's not that the abilities of this plane are generally very strong and difficult to swallow, but it depends on the strength of the ability. When he devoured this ability, he didn't have that much trouble. Just like before, he devoured it smoothly. You can bring your daughter here. Su-Jean said something to him, and he quickly got up and went downstairs. Not long after, he went upstairs with a very cute little girl in his arms. Looking at her, Su-Jean really lamented the uneasy fate of this little girl. Originally, the family of 3 lived a good life, but their parents died tragically and their hearts were frightened. Then they became a tool of the mysterious organization that Burnett worked for, specifically used to locate people with superpowers, and were almost killed. Sometimes, fate that gives you powerful abilities can also bring you disaster. Su-Jean smiled at Jasmine, reached out and rubbed her head, and then, released his devouring ability. The resistance is much stronger than that of his father. However, she is much weaker than Claire, perhaps because she is young and her abilities have not yet been fully awakened and developed. It took about 10 minutes before Su-Jean felt the power pouring into his body. Chapter 99. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Okay, cutie. Su-Jean smiled and said to Jasmine, then nodded towards his father and said, if everything goes well, I won't disturb your dinner. I hope you can have a pleasant night. Are you sure nothing will happen? Jasmine's father asked worriedly. Do not worry. Su-Jean patted his shoulder, then turned around and came out. After acquiring 3 abilities in a row, the main mission was completed. Su-Jean walked out happily, preparing to go back to the hotel to rest for a night and let his body adjust itself before setting off for New York tomorrow. Please give me a map, thank you. Su-Jean walked to a newsstand, bought a map, and then casually glanced behind him. Not far away, a man wearing a peaked cap was buying something from a nearby hot dog stand. Are you targeting me? I'm afraid it's not that easy for you to get my ability. Su-Jean raised the corners of his mouth and smiled softly. Chapter 0120 Secret Research Institute. Walking on the street, Su-Jean could feel that the man was following him unhurriedly, as if he wanted to figure out where he was staying. Sierra. A murderer who specializes in cutting open the heads of people with abilities to obtain the other person's abilities. Speaking of which, Sarah is indeed a heroic figure. He was originally just a watchmaker, but he was unwilling to be mediocre. Cruelly killing other ability users just to gain their abilities. To many ability users, Sarah is extremely dangerous, but to Su-Jean, he is still far from it. However, Su-Jean was lucky that he was one step ahead of him. He must have found out from Molly's house that he could target him so quickly. If he hadn't appeared, things would probably have developed on the original track. Now, Sarah must know that he can devour others, which is somewhat similar to his ability, so he naturally focuses on himself. After thinking about it, Su-Jean deliberately speeded up and walked into the alley next to him. As soon as he walked in, Sarah hurriedly followed behind him, and when he turned into the alley, he was suddenly stunned. No one. And, it seemed like a dead end. Sarah walked in and looked around suspiciously. frowning in surprise. Where are the people? Are you looking for me? That there was a sudden voice behind her. Sierra turned around and saw Su-Jean leaning against the wall with a playful smile. Sarah was a little surprised how he appeared behind her, but she did not panic. After a pause, she smiled and said, "Hello, my name is Mohinder, I am a professor of genetics. I have been paying attention to you for a long time. You are special, if possible, can we talk?" Moshinda. Su-Jean looked at him and asked with a smile, "I remember that Professor Moshinda seemed to be an Indian, but you don't look like him. What's more, I just came here today, so your so-called attention I have been here for a long time, actually from Jasmine's house to now, right?" Sarah. Sierra's expression was stiff, and after a moment she was a little surprised and said, "I didn't expect you to recognize me. It seems that you already knew that I was following you. Did you do it on purpose? You want to get my ability? To be honest, I'm also very curious about your ability, so, why not give it a try and see who can get the other's ability?" Su-Jean said with a smile. Sarah smiled evilly. "It's interesting. Your ability. I'm going to decide." Sierra raised her hand and pointed it at Su-Jean's head, smiling confidently. Su-Jean felt a slight pain on his forehead, and a blood stain slowly appeared, but soon, the wound healed. "Huh. Have you ever gained the ability to heal yourself?" Sarah said with some surprise. "It's over. Then it's my turn." Su-Jean didn't even move, didn't make the slightest move, but Sarah suddenly couldn't move, and then, he found himself slowly drifting toward Su-Jean. Psychic control. Sarah was a little panicked. She didn't expect that the other party had so many abilities, let alone that his telekinetic control was so strong. He activated his telekinesis and tried to make the trash can next to him hit Su-Jean. As soon as the trash can came out, it was stopped by Su-Jean, and it immediately returned to its original position. No matter how much Sarah pushed it, it didn't move. Looking at Sarah being dragged in front of him, Su-Jean said with a chuckle, "It seems that you have no other choice, so I will take away your ability." As he said that, he was already ready to reach out. Boom! A low and soft sound suddenly came, and Su-Jean felt a slight sting in his neck, as if something was piercing him. Turning his head, he saw Burnett, and immediately he felt a drowsy feeling coming from him. Anesthetics. Su-Jean thought for a while, suddenly let go of Sarah, and then slowly fell to the ground. After Sierra was free, she hesitated, turned around and ran away. Burnett did not chase Sarah, but looked at the unconscious Su-Jean and stretched his hands behind him. After a moment, a black man came out, picked up Su-Jean, and got into the car. Shaking and shaking, "I don't know where the car is going." Although Su-Jean had his eyes closed, he was awake. Anesthetics didn't have much effect on him at all. Although he felt a little drowsy at first, it disappeared after a while. The reason why he fell down and let go of Sarah was because he suddenly remembered that he had already devoured 3 abilities today. It would be inappropriate to devour Sarah's ability again, and Sarah's ability would definitely not be swallowed that easily. Just in time, Burnett arrived. Su-Jean was going to take advantage of the opportunity to visit his research institute and get some benefits. As for Sarah, it is not difficult to find him with the positioning ability. Not long after, Su-Jean was taken to the secret research institute by them. They brought Su-Jean to the research room to study his abilities. I said, "Are you going to treat me as your benefactor like this?" After Su-Jean was fixed, they were preparing for testing. At this time, Su-Jean suddenly opened his eyes and asked Burnett. Burnett said calmly, "Don't worry, we won't hurt you, we are just testing you, and then we will let you go." "Really? I'm afraid some kind of virus was injected into my body so that you can monitor it, right? When you left, did you delete my memory?" Su-Jean said and looked at the black man next to him. "Haitian, this guy's ability is a bit interesting. He has 2 abilities at the same time. An ability that can block other superpowers is a terrifying ability that all superpowers fear, one that can erase memories." Su-Jean could feel that he was also affected, which made him surprised that Haitians were really capable. Chapter 100. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It seems that you know a lot, but it's useless, because you will forget it after it's over. Burnett said lightly, and then asked people to prepare to take action. Stop trying to resist. He can block your abilities, so, you should cooperate honestly, right? Yeah, that seeing Burnett's determined look, the corners of Su Zhan's lips raised slightly, and he smiled faintly, and then, his body released flames, and after a moment, the things holding him on his body were burned away, float up and land slowly. The flames on Su Zhan's body suddenly disappeared. Looking at the surprised and panicked Burnett and the Haitian, he shrugged. It seems that my ability is not blocked. This is impossible. After being surprised, Burnett took out the anesthetic pistol again, preparing to anesthetize Su Zhan. Su Zhan waved his hand gently, and a ball of sparks suddenly appeared. Burnett's gun exploded instantly, almost missing Burnett's hand. Chapter 0121 Mind Reading. Burnett shook his hands in panic and looked at Su Zhan in disbelief. The Haitian's ability has never failed. There are many powerful superpowers here who act like ordinary people. Unexpectedly, he failed this time and his ability was ineffective against Su Zhan. Burnett turned around to run, but Su Zhan waved his hand, and in an instant, the laboratory door was closed. Immediately afterwards, Su Zhan's body moved suddenly, and in an instant, several people in the room fell to the ground, knocked unconscious by Su Zhan's beating. After bringing them down, the Haitian's shielding ability disappeared. In fact, his abilities did not expire, but they did not fully work due to strength and weakness. Su Zhan's telekinesis control, freezing abilities, etc. were therefore ineffective. However, the Thunderbolt's abilities were too strong, surpassing those of the Haitian's ability, so it was not affected. This ability must be acquired. Su Zhan looked at the Haitian and released his mind control ability on him, modifying his memory just like Kira. He couldn't devour him continuously now, so he could only take him with him first, and then look for opportunities to devour him after his body had adjusted. After controlling the Haitian, Su Zhan woke him up and asked him to delete the memories of other people one by one. Burnett was left, but his memory was not deleted. Instead, he was controlled by Su Zhan like the undersea man. Show me around. Su Zhan said something. Burnett led the way, and the Haitian followed Su Zhan quietly. After a brief walk around, I found out that there was another person with superpowers who they had just captured and were going to study. Su Zhan couldn't help but feel happy when he saw this person. A fat, honest-looking man named Matt is a policeman with the ability to read minds. If he hadn't intervened, after Sierra killed Jasmine's parents, Matt happened to be in charge of the case and found Jasmine hiding. However, he was suspected to be Sierra, and then he followed the FBI by accident. Investigative work. It is indeed a good ability to be able to know what others are thinking. Unfortunately, Matt later heard about his wife's affair, and even if he wanted to or not, he couldn't. You can imagine how depressed he was. Arrange a room for me to rest. Su Zhan planned to rest here today and leave after devouring Matt's ability tomorrow. Burnett arranged a room for Su Zhan, and Su Zhan let him move around on his own. As for the Haitian, he was left with him. Su Zhan was ready to study how far this shielding ability could go. The night passes quietly, the sun rises, and a new day comes. When Su Zhan woke up, he felt that his body was in good condition. His freezing ability and positioning ability had been completely integrated. Asking the Haitians to activate the shielding ability, Su Zhan tried to release the freezing ability, but the result was still unsuccessful, or not completely successful. There was only a hint of frost ice scum on his hands, not completely frozen. However, yesterday, he couldn't even do this. After completely integrating his abilities, the effect has been much better. After coming out of the room, Su Zhan went directly to see Matt. Seeing Su Zhan and the Haitians who suddenly came in, Matt shouted hurriedly, "Who are you? Why are you arresting me? Let me go, I'm a policeman. Don't be nervous, I'll let you out soon. But before that, there are two things to do." Su Zhan said with a smile. "What to do?" "It's very simple. You can read minds, right? You can try to read my thoughts." Su Zhan glanced at the Haitian, who put away his shielding ability. Matt looked at Su Zhan, tilted his head and listened. After a moment, he shook his head and said, "No, I can't do it. It's like something is blocking it." "What now?" Su Zhan asked again. Matt paused for a moment and said, "You want to devour my ability? It seems that the mental barrier of the lamp ring can prevent you from reading minds. In other words, your mind-reading skills may not be effective for people who can control minds, unless they do not deliberately protect themselves. Only then will you have a chance to succeed. Well, it's a pretty good ability." Su Zhan didn't care about Matt's surprise, and he wasn't afraid that Matt would know his secret. "Now that you know everything, you don't have to say it again." Su Zhan smiled at Matt. Matt was a little panicked at first, but soon calmed down. He had heard what Su Zhan was thinking, so he knew that what Su Zhan said was true and there was no danger. Then he will let himself go, and then delete his memory here. Matt gave up resisting, and the devouring process became much smoother. Not long after, Su Zhan had obtained his abilities and then deleted his memory. As for deleting memories, it's not just Haitians who have this ability. After acquiring Matt's abilities, Su Zhan was no longer prepared to stay here. He told the Haitians to take Matt out with him and left the research institute. After finding a place to put Matt down, Su Zhan planned to take the Haitian with him first. With him around, his devouring ability would be more convenient. It won't be too late to devour his abilities before leaving this copy. Back in town, Su Zhan asked the Haitians to buy some food while he sat in the car and looked at the map, preparing to locate Sarah's location. Just as he was using his ability, he heard someone knocking on the window. Su Zhan turned his head and saw the people outside the car window, blonde hair, smiling face, looking happy. Rolling down the window, Su Zhan said with a smile, "Claire, why are you here? Aren't you supposed to be in school at this time? I went to the hotel to look for you, but the owner of the hotel said you weren't here. I didn't expect to find you here," Claire said with a smile. "Great, I thought I'd never see you again." Two voices sounded at the same time, and Su Zhan was stunned for a moment before he realized that this must be the ability to read minds. "Are you worried you'll never see me again?" Su Zhan asked with a smile. Claire was stunned for a moment, but she didn't expect that he guessed her thoughts, and hurriedly explained, "I have already explained it to my father, but he didn't believe it and asked me to stay away from you, but you are my friend. My benefactor, so I still want to express my gratitude to you in person. Do you have time? I want to treat you to dinner." "Promise, you must promise." Seeing Claire's nervous and expectant look, and listening to the expectations in her heart, Su Zhan smiled and nodded, "Of course, but I'll invite you." Chapter 0122 Claire's Thoughts. Originally, Su Zhan had no intention of having dinner with Claire, but since he had met Claire and was looking forward to it so much, it was hard for him to refuse. What's more, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have dinner with such a pretty girl, right? "Come on up." Su Zhan greeted, got out of the car and walked around to the driver's seat. Just then, the Haitian came back with something. Su Zhan waved to him, then got in the car, started the car and left.